Good morning and welcome to Zen Fits on this beautiful Tuesday morning at the center of the world in Blackstone, but then you too are at the center of the world. So we're waiting for, at least I am, the announcement of the impeachment of the president. This is a historic moment, and I don't think we really, at least I don't think we really appreciate the depth and the gravity of it. No, I remember of Clinton's impeachment, and that was kind of like a joke, really. I mean, you know, it was, he covered up a blowjob, you know, so, which proved from the view of the right that Clinton was morally unfit to be president. He wasn't unfit because of what he did in office, his policy, his enactment of his office, but from his personal life, he was morally unfit, therefore impeachable. Nixon, of course, was unfit for office because he broke into, well, the whole thing. You know, I wrote the other day that we're like, right now, we're like at the bookend of an American story. Nixon and Trump both are impeached for trying to manipulate the election. Nixon broke into the DNC headquarters to get dirt on the DNC. So the Russians broke in to the DNC to get dirt on Hillary. And Trump welcomed it. And then he did it through Ukraine. So the bookends are pretty much clear that both are impeached because of trying to manipulate the election for their personal benefit and covering it up with all the other added and whatever. But basically that seems to be the difference. But I just finished watching, I get Acorn TV, which is British TV, and they have good documentaries, or British documentaries. So just watched The Rise of Hitler, and it was about a 8-series piece on the rise of Hitler, the rise and fall of Hitler. In 12 years, Hitler captivated and bent the mind of the German people to believe his story of reality, and it all came crashing down. We all know how it ended. But the primary point that I got from it was the skill that Hitler and his cronies, it was just a little gang of people. It was just a little criminal gang, the original Nazis, and they kind of like continued through the whole thing and either were hung or shot themselves in the end. The game was up. Bam. You see? But the point was that they brainwashed a people through the skillful manipulation of media, movies, print, everything. It was a total hermetically sealed worldview or idea of reality that Goebbels, the mastermind, created that lasted right up to the end. And then after the war was over, America went through, I think up until 1951, they had to denazify the German people. If you recall, no, we don't recall because you weren't alive, most of you weren't alive then, but the Nuremberg trial was to denazify the false reality of the German people by putting their idealized gods on trial like criminals and hanging them like common criminals, like murderers, and then taking the people through the prison camps, marching the German, exposing the prison camps and the horror of what this brainwashing had done, you see. And so the title of this talk is Impeachment, a fight for the soul of, are we fighting for our soul in the same way that the German people lost their soul when they believed the full metal press, the full propaganda press of Nazism. You see, there was no, Nazism was a lifestyle. I mean, it went into what you ate at night, what you ate at your marriage ceremonies, your death ceremonies, your schools, everywhere. The Nazi worldview penetrated every walk of life. So there was no place to turn that wasn't Nazi. There wasn't any place to turn that wasn't Nazi. So if we look at America right now, there are two worlds. There is the view from the left and the view from the right. And on the view from the right, where can you go that Trump is not? Where can you go that Trump is wrong? Where can you go that Trump is not to be defended? And from the view from the left, it's like a refusal to be brainwashed, a refusal to give up our ground in evidence. See, the only thing that keeps us from being insane, the only thing that keeps us from being crazy is evidence, is facts, and facts are, in the modern world, evidence is the pathway to truth, because evidence means verified facts from different sources. So a newspaper, a valid one, will not report a fact unless it's verified from alternate sources that are not working together. You see? So if all of the facts you have, you see, are reference to one source, and that source is your idea of what reality is, then you're in a hermetically sealed idea. An idea. Now, an idea is not a concept. Idea with capital I, idea with I, capital D, capital E. Idea is a world view in which we live and through which we perceive facts and reality. It's like a fishbowl. So we're really kind of like in a culture, in a world right now where we have a big fishbowl called America, and truth is based on evidence and law, jurisprudence, facts verified by alternate sources. Our system, our belief in truth, law, justice, holds our fishbowl together. But now we have another fishbowl in the fishbowl, and it's expanding. This fishbowl is Trumpism, and it's expanding. It wants to expand and take over the whole bowl, you see. But the bigger bowl is pushing back. It's kind of like the big American fishbowl that we've always lived in and believe in and assume is safe and real, can't be removed, you see, is like the clear water based on evidence. But then you have this smaller bowl that's suddenly growing inside of it, like an algae. It's like maybe like a cancer. Something is growing inside the larger bowl and expanding. It wants to expand and have no other bowl beside it. It wants to be the one without a second. It wants to be just like Hitler. Hitler basically created a fishbowl that had no option to think outside of it. You couldn't think outside of it. There was no option. Oh, a few people did, but we're talking generally, you see. And the fishbowl was held together by the Führer, the number one, who said, Germany, Führer, one people, one Führer, one Germany, it's just one. The one without a second. And of course, Hitler was destroyed because he couldn't stop his own expansion. He had to expand into Russia. He had to expand. He would expand it all the way to Japan. You see, there's no end to expansion once it wants to be the one without a second. You see that? In other words, if I believe that I must be the one without a second, I must be the unique one, I must be the one. No, no other fingers, chop that up. Not two, one. Well, then I can't stop until there is no other, because that's a threat to my oneness, you see. There can't be any other one. There can't be anything outside of me. There can't be anything outside of my circle. I must include all. And that's an idea in which we would live and conform to that idea. Because if I identify with the idea, then I'm expanding. If I identify with the leader, then I'm greater. The greater Germany, the greater I feel, the people felt. It was illusion, you see. All based on conquering the other, you see. And so we're like, oh, you're comparing him to Hitler. No, Trump is not Hitler. I'm trying to look at the pattern, the threat, the existential threat. So it's not really so much Trump, you see. Trump is a condition. Trump is an effect, a symptom. Trump is a symptom, you see. So, and this impeachment is basically saying no. No, we will not be consumed by this idea of oneness with a supreme leader who cannot do wrong, you see. Once the whole mythology of the supreme leader is that the supreme leader is above the law. There's no check. Because if there's a check, it isn't the one. The one means there's no check to your expansion. You cannot stop the expansion when you believe in the one that has no, that I am the one. America is the one with no second. You see how this fits into nationalism? Nationalism is a belief that America has no second. We are number one. Way, number one, number one. It's sports. It's all about being number one. We get euphoric. Oh, we're number one. It's temporary. The next game, you're number 2 or 5, you see. But in the moment, I'm number one. Ecstatic, you see. Well, nationalism is like that. So if you have a leader who is a nationalist, then he's number one. The nation is number one. I am, and Trump says that, you know, I am your voice. Let me be your voice, you see. In the rallies, there is a capsule, a fishbowl look of what it's like to be number one and to have all the people applauding you, even though you're saying what they would not, outside of that rally, agree to. What? He said that? What? He said that? I don't know. You see, so the whole thing we're looking at here is the brainwashing, the euphoria, the rapture of being number one without a second. And that whole idea of being number one without a second is based on getting rid of the other. Getting rid of the other is the energy that makes me passionate about being number one. I'm only being number one because number 2 has to be removed, you see. So the whole thing becomes a cultural war of the expanding fishbowl reality inside a larger fishbowl. And what the GOP did, not intentionally, but what they did with Nixon, talking about the bookends, was create this idea that the liberals, that the protesters against the war, that anybody that was against Nixon was the enemy. So right there, you can see the beginnings of the division in America between us, the good guys, and those liberals, Democrats, hippies, immigrants, or whatever you want to call them, are the bad guys, and we have to eliminate them. Now we have to vote them out, eliminate them, dismiss them, take them out of power, so we can be the only one. So we will restore the oneness of America, you see, by getting rid of our threats, which is the other half of America. So this impeachment thing is bigger than just getting rid of Trump. It's getting rid of a cancer of nationalism, which, if unchecked, becomes an empire. Look at the British Empire. Number one, they took over half the globe. The Romans, number one, took over half the globe. Napoleon, Hitler. Expansion unchecked will consume itself. And so we're looking at a little embryo here in the Trump in birth, you see, of a desire to expand without check. There is no end to me. Where can I go that I am not? I can look. Wherever I look, I see me. Wherever I look, I see Trump. Wherever I look, Trump, 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 Trump. It's a line on stakes, towers, underwear, everything. Trump, Trump, Trump. Isn't that not like where can I go in Germany that Hitler is not? That Nazism is not everywhere? A Nazi, a Nazi, a Nazi, a Nazi. Everywhere, Trump, 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 Trump. A hermetically sealed idea that's expanding. It has to expand. The moment Stalingrad, in Ukraine, by the way, Ukraine, Stalingrad, turned the tide on Hitler, and from then on he began to deteriorate. He began to contract and shrink. In the last year or so of his life, he was a pathetic, broken man, shaky, full of drugs, living in a bunker. And his idea lived, and people died for his idea, and he was a mess, hidden in his bunker, unable to make rational decisions, you see. But his idea existed. People still died for that idea, although he was a mess, you see. So once that expansion stops, once it's checked, it's like a rubber balloon without the air. And it goes flying around. Poof, it's gone, you see. So it lives by expansion. So impeachment is the check on the expanding globalism or the expanding bubble of Trumpism that will consume everything in its idea that I am the one without a second, you see. And that's basically just a big inflated ego. We all have that ego of being number one in the family, being number one in relationship, being number one on Facebook. My opinion is number one, and I'll defeat all other opinions until everybody agrees and says, amen. Amen. Here in I live in Blackstone. Whenever I go on a local friends thing, and I make a comment about my view of politics or whatever, I'm immediately tarred and feathered. You know, how dare you suggest that our view is not the correct view? You know, how dare you? So anyway, it's very present. It's very present, very here. So, thanks for dropping in and having a Zen fit with me today.